business, and I've got one too. You can't mind your business. What's the matter with you?
Welcome to the Brand Shorthand Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Vandergrift, and with me today is the matron of merchandising, Lorraine Kessler. Lorraine, we're in August. Can you believe it's here already?
No, I cannot believe I'm not even ready to give up on summer, right, till September. Um, but funny that you termed me the matron of merchandising, setting aside matron for a minute,
Uh-huh.
which makes me feel terribly old. Um, a little more than a month ago, actually, before July 4th, I went to the store at home,
Uh-huh.
right, a Dallas-based retailer store that we have here. And they already were showing Halloween stuff.
Oh, geez.
It's like manic merchandising has just completely overtaken. I mean, we got Christmas in July. I don't know who thought of that idea. But these are merchandising schemes, and
Yeah.
apparently they're effective because I guess there are some people who are, thinking Halloween already. I'm still
Yeah.
thinking pontoon rides and jet skis and beautiful summer nights. But anyway, and it also made me think I should just open one store called Four Seasons, like the restaurant, and just have everything for every season possible in one store so you can shop all year round. Stop the insanity.
I think that would work.
Yeah.
If you think about it, there's a lot of Christmas shops.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't take much more to center it around Christmas, but add all the other ones as like individual areas. It blows my mind when you get to December 15th anymore, they're already putting Christmas stuff on, half 75% off.
Oh, and forget about Thanksgiving. It's almost impossible to find anything for
Yeah.
Thanksgiving. It's like that
No,
comes
they go
in.
from Halloween to Christmas
Yeah.
because I think Pilgrims kind of is no longer in fashion. Or riding to grandmothers through the woods or
Yeah, it's like Thanksgiving just totally gets now subsumed into fall. Called
yeah.
fall.
Yep.
Yeah,
Well,
but one store and make it big. I mean, make it
yeah,
really, really big. And then you have every one of your corners covered.
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Well, the line I hear all the time is as soon as you see the Christmas lights, Thanksgiving's right around the corner.
Oh my gosh.
Speaking of holidays or celebrations, I have some exciting news for you.
hmm
Today is our 50th episode. Can you believe it?
I do not believe it. That
We
is bonkers crazy.
we made it to 50. Now I have to tell you when I call you these things like matron of merchandising, know that matron, that title comes along with like queen.
Oh,
And how old was Queen Elizabeth when she came to the throne? She
well,
was a
she was young.
matron, so,
Yeah,
I'm not dating you by
I
using
know. She
matron.
was in her 20s. She was young. Yeah, she
Yep.
was one. Yeah,
She was a matron in her 20s, so there
yeah.
you go. You can be a matron of merchandising in your 20s.
Wave down.
Yeah, I think it's 1, 2,
Oh, yeah.
3, 1, 2, 3.
You can tell I'm not British. Too
Are you
Italian.
scared that I know that? That shows you I have
Italian happy
daughters.
hands.
Yeah. Well, I found a LinkedIn article that says that of the 3 million podcasts, and this was as of June last year, so 2023, of the 3 million podcasts available, only 156,000 make it past 10 episodes. So that's only 5.2%.
Wow.
I can't find a stat on how many make it to 50. But an old article said it was 11%, but that would have been more than the 5.2% current stat. So I'm going to go with our current, 2023 stat. Obviously, it would be less than 5% since many haven't even hit the 50 mark yet. And there are probably many others that give up in maybe the 10s and the 20s. So congratulations officially, Lorraine. We have made it into the top 5% of all podcasters, at least based on quantity. Now, quality, that's another question.
Well, hopefully we have more than 50 viewers and listeners and
Definitely.
subscribers. But it's good we hit it in this Majority's 50th year, right?
Oh, true. Yep.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
kind of a nice what do you call that? It's not a
A
coincidence.
mile. Oh, yeah. It
It's
is kind of a coincidence. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to call it, but
Or
that's good.
destiny. We'll call
Dest-
it that.
Destiny.
Or as since Back to the Future's back in style now, I'll call it density. You are my density. I always love that line from
Pretty doggone good.
Yep.
When you think about it, that it is pretty astounding because in our market, in the Cleveland market,
Hmm.
well, there are very few agencies that have lasted 50 years, very
Yeah.
few nationally, right?
Yep.
They either went out of business completely or got subsumed by other larger global brands.
Oh, yeah.
But in just the Cleveland market, there were like outstanding agencies when I started. Liggett Stashower, gone.
Uh-huh.
Wise, Smucker's famous for their campaign, gone. There was one you probably don't remember called Jamie, really
Oh, yeah.
great business to business, gone.
Yeah.
They came and went.
What about Wolf Group? They're gone too, aren't
Oh
they?
yeah, Wolf Group, yeah,
Yeah.
another one, yeah,
Yeah. And then you have the ones that have been, you know, acquired by others, so you don't hear of them anymore. But
yeah.
who was it our PR crew worked for?
Oh, that was
Jim
out
and
of
Jack.
Youngstown. Sherman,
Sherman, yeah,
yeah,
they were purchased, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really know what happened to
Marcus
Sherman.
Thomas,
Yeah, Marcus
pretty sure.
Thomas.
Yep.
Yep.
So
So
they're still around, but I
they're
didn't
still
they buy
around.
Sherman?
Maybe I don't know. I know
Yeah.
Malone, of course, became part of
Well,
J.
they
Roller
became a
Thompson,
lot of things.
and then Geometry Global and whatever. But
Yeah, then they
yeah.
became a bunch of initials, and now they're VMR or VML or something
Oh,
like that.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So they're meaningless initials as well.
yeah. That's really smart
But
for an
yeah.
agency to do.
Okay, matron of merchandising, let's
Yeah,
get to our topic today. We've reminisced a little bit
yeah.
much. I'm sure we've put everyone to sleep already. Um, I think our topic is one with which we can have a lot of fun. This is thanks again to our loyal listener and our positioning pal, Doug,
Hmm.
who sent us an article about Etsy and their marketing.
Yeah.
It was an article in Adweek, and it shares how it goes opposite of a lot of the technology companies, especially if you saw Apple's recent commercial that really got trampled on, where everything was about getting rid of the human aspect of creativity and compressing it, and out pops a thin iPad. Their campaign focuses on technology, but it's human centric. So, given our recent ponderings on big brands going opposite of the leader, so Pepsi new to Coke's old,
Hmm.
what strikes you as interesting about this move by Etsy and their most recent campaign?
Well, Etsy is uses technology to promote handmade
Mhm.
or finely curated or finely designed uh, elements, artifacts, everything from fashion to tools to furniture to real art. That's human made, right?
Mhm.
Human human curated, human design. I think it's brilliant, but it's going to sound braggadocio. But 40 years ago, to my then boss in the agency I worked in Toledo, I remember saying to him, the more things become technology and mass produced, and we optimize our productivity as a nation, where labor hours, you need less to make stuff because you're using automation and all sorts of other technological things. I think it's going to create huge demand for handcrafted, right?
Hmm.
Artifacts or handcrafted things that have a thumb, like a pot that has a thumbprint on it,
Yeah.
that we're going to go back to go forward. And we'll see a renaissance in kind of real paintings and real things. So to the degree that I think that's what Etsy's about, and I think that they've tapped into that kind of being the counter to everything else being somehow mass produced. Even paintings, for example,
Mhm.
are now mass produced, right? And people are doing them with computers and technology, but there's still going to be, I think, a need for an appreciation for that human element. So, and it goes back to something we've talked about so many times, Mark, and that is that people are additive, not subtractive.
Mhm.
So it doesn't mean I'm going to stop using my iPad or my iPhone or stop making photos that I can photo touch and make into beautiful things. But it does mean that I may add more real made things or more craft made things by human hands to my collection of things.
Hmm.
And so I really think that's going to work. And I think their theme is keep commerce human,
Hmm.
is intelligent, and it is what they do. So it just really plays on a tried and true refrain that we have said. All right. So what is the alternative to mass? Custom.
Hmm.
What's the alternative to standardization and inefficiency? I know you love that word. Um,
Yay! You worked it
it,
in.
it's the human touch.
Yeah.
Okay. What trumps kind of impersonal created things? You don't know who made them and where they came from. Well, something that's patently emotional, and I know the artist. It's signed, or it has some sort of signature. So as long as there's technology that's going one way, it can't be all things. I think there's going to be room for Etsy and the ability to keep commerce human.
I think it's a refreshing campaign.
Yeah,
And, we've talked about AI recently,
yeah,
and there's all this techno talk about AI taking over the world.
yeah.
Like the article says, it's not that the campaign is anti tech, but frankly, what's sold on Etsy are many products that just can't be replicated by AI. Now, maybe one day, but that
Yeah.
day is not today. And one thing I thought was cool, and this to me makes the platform even that much more attractive to customers like me, is the article read that they're going to add made, designed, um, sourced,
Hmm.
and there's one other one. Oh, handpicked
Yeah.
by the seller. So made, designed, sourced, and handpicked by the seller. And I think made is the one that is going to interest me the most because, you know, you can design and source it. Design's okay. Handpicked, those sound like I could handpick them from China. But I think made is the most powerful, and that should really catapult the creative makers on the platform. I don't know if you know this, Etsy has a competitor called GoImagine.com.
No.
And
Mm-mm.
they insist that the people on that platform have to make their goods.
Okay.
What they're trying to separate from is Etsy's getting a little bit more with the made in China products that are coming over and people claiming that they're making stuff. Well, they're just altering it in ever so slight ways and then they say it's made by them. GoImagine.com is kind of going to an extreme of that, which is only made stuff. Um, but we know a gal, and this is where I learned about GoImagine, who does a huge amount of business on Etsy, and she repurposes the jeans,
Yeah.
like old jeans, into
Hmm.
rugs and purses and things like that.
Oh,
And
cool.
who'd have thunk that that would have an audience? But she does big business, and she's on both GoImagine and Etsy. So, this whole move around what they're doing, do you think this is a pretty strategically strong move?
Yeah, I think it's real strong, but I do think there is a threat to what you said, is that there needs to be some integrity in terms of the made um, aspect of it on Etsy. And if they're getting too broad and too loose with that, I think that's going to hurt them. The experience of Etsy, which I purchased a lot through, is that you can talk directly to the seller. So whether they're the maker and all the other three things you said, design, well, there's made, to me,
Source.
design, and curated. I think those are the three categories because if you sourced it, the curated is a better word, right?
Yeah.
And I would focus on that versus sourcing
Hmm.
because someone who curates may have a particular style, like Magnolia,
Hmm.
right? They had a particular style. Um, Apothic has a particular style in the fashion world or design world. And so what you're doing is you're buying that style and someone has curated that for you. So you don't have to go to 1,000 different places to put it together yourself. So I think Etsy is going to have to stay pretty, rein in the rules
Hmm.
on that to really make this stay where it is and not let it devolve.
Yeah. And um, eh, they're on top now, right?
Yeah.
And if they want to stay on top, they're going to have to kind of thwart the threats of, I would imagine, other platforms like
Yeah.
GoImagine. And so they certainly can't become stale. And thinking of stale,
Yeah.
if you want, let's shift to another brand now. So we've kind of exhausted Etsy here.
Yeah.
Um, it's that challenge of staying on top. And you sent me an article about Nike and
Yeah.
their recent stock. I wouldn't even call it a drop. It was a collapse, 40% in one day.
Yeah.
Set us up on that discussion. What's going on with Nike?
Well, first, like, it's not just 40% one day, but it's 20% at the end of the
Yeah.
June quarter ending June, which was a 4-year low.
Mhm.
And this is, so it's been persistent, right? And then um, one of the analysts who evaluates Nike and advises investors said, and this guy's name is Jay Soul, which I think is kind of funny, like the soul of your shoe. SOLE. I thought that was kind of funny. He quoted in a Forbes article that there will be no quick rebound for Nike earnings. As then he proceeded to downgrade Nike
Hmm.
from buy to neutral. So that's like a yowza.
Yeah, it
So,
is.
so you asked, like, what's going on? I'd say first and foremost, it's a combination of lack of fascination, which is deadly to any brand
Hmm.
and often comes with ubiquity, and additional competition. So, you know that I believe familiarity is critical. It's like the goal um, to achieve critical mass if you're a new brand, for a newly differentiated brand. I could have the best differentiated brand in the world, but if nobody knows about it, you know, so what?
Right.
So really getting that known for that is, and Nike, of course, has done that. But the reverse side of that coin is ubiquity. When you become ubiquitous, meaning over familiarity, everybody feels they know you, it breeds boredom. And we are just like so Pavlovian. We are neophilic, right? Neophilic means that we are always wanting new things. We always want new and different, you know? That's why brands would put new and improved, right? Because they don't want you to think we're still the same old thing. So boredom is, once you lose that fascination, it's to me, it's kind of like losing the magical mercurial ingredient that makes a brand rise quickly.
Hmm.
So beyond its function or what it does, there's a mercurial, magical element, and when that mystique kind of goes away, you're in trouble, and it's not easy to get that back. So I think the investor is right about
Yeah. There was a sentence in the article that might speak a little bit to the
that. Mhm.
broader market.
Yeah,
And I think we probably need to give consideration to that because there's market forces that happen every day.
for sure.
Right. So here's the sentence that kind of jumped out at me. It's broadly been a bad stretch for athletic clothing and sneaker companies. Shares of Lululemon stock down 17% over the last 3 years, Adidas down 26%, and Under Armour down 68%. And for multinational companies with a high proportion of sales in China, and they said, see Apple, another reference to
Oh yeah,
selling a lot
yeah.
over there. Is this an indicator that it's more of an industry downturn due to the Chinese economy, maybe?
Well, it certainly is. That's certainly a sobering factor, and you can't discount it. But I don't think entirely that's the problem. I think, and I didn't really talk to the second part of my equation, which was competition.
Mhm.
I think there's a lot more competition. We have Alo. I don't know how you pronounce that, ALO, and um, is it Hoku or I actually have Hokas. I think they're called Hokas. Those shoes. Um, these are just two incumbents that I've seen, but there's many more.
Mhm.
There's a brand of sandal and shoe from Hawaii that's
Mhm.
super interesting right now and has dominated a lot of the boutiques. stores that I visited up north where they sell that kind of stuff near water. So the thing is, what I see is a lot of small niche brands like this that have a lot of story around them and a lot of fascination, and they are gorillas, and you have a lot of gorillas. And I'm not saying gorilla like the big ape, like in gorilla,
Gorilla. Yeah.
as in marketing warfare,
Yeah.
positioning strategy. The gorilla, like a hit and run gunman, has the advantage of narrowing the playing field. I mean, to their advantage, because they can play. They don't need to boil the ocean to be profitable or successful or please stockholders. And they can either just focus on a particular region or a particular area or a small segment of the market and be wildly successful from a sales and profit standpoint. And the larger brands like Nike and Under Armour, who have distribution that's wide, they can't afford to lavish resources on that small an island, if you will. So you have a lot of these hit and miss or shoot and hit kind of guys coming out with great stories that are captivating to audiences. And I think that's part of the problem too.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting, the next line in that article was Nike has also dealt with an apparent decline in interest in its products.
Oh, geez, deadly.
Its global search volumes have been down year over year constantly dating back to last July, and we're down about 10% last month, according to Goldman Sachs research. So,
Well,
you mentioned, we talked about one 2 weeks ago. Remember Gymshark?
yeah, yep.
There's one of
That's
your
another one. Yeah.
one. And how do you go after that? I mean, Nike's been known to be in the gym, but here you have a specialist attacking right at that with a name that is perfect for that market.
Right. And a story and a personality. And here's the other thing. These companies become so big, they lose touch, right? They become institutionalized. So they lose, I don't have a relationship with the founder of Nike. But the guy who started Gymshark, I'm reading stories about him. He's a young guy and he had this idea and he wanted clothes that wicked and that were comfortable. And they have a particular attribute that they focus on, that you're going to be more comfortable when you work out. You're actually going to have a better workout. Well, that's engaging. Yeah. So it's hard to be engaged with these mega brands that get so big. So size can be a detriment. We don't talk about that enough. The other thing is you're in a fashion-forward, fashion-fast business where trends change quickly, more so than in many other categories. It can be lethal because when you're big, just think about how much harder it is for a freighter to turn, right, than a cruiser boat or a speedboat. I mean, you can make moves really quickly, but a freighter is like, it's very slow. And a very fast-moving market that is kind of beholden, or at least lassoed to changing tastes and behaviors very quickly. So that's another thing. But what you read about, they've lost, people have lost interest in the Nike?
In their products. Yep.
That's frightening. And to me, this is I think there was another part of that too that said something to do with search volumes are down, right?
Yep.
So it's cause and effect. Do you fix the search volumes? No, that you go back to the root. Interest is down. That's why people aren't searching. It's cause and effect. So that's the problem you have to fix, is how do you get interest back? Not just in the category of athletic apparel. I mean, hey, everybody's buying it. But how do you get that interest back for your brand? And, another sneaker that we talk about, and I think is growing pretty well, is Skechers, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because the slip-on ease, oh my God. Like, it is, once you have put yourself into that, you're like, why am I,
I hate to admit it, but I hate tying. I have 2 pairs of shoes with shoestrings, and now I hate tying them.
And they make them, they look like they're tied shoes, right? I mean, really, they can keep going with this stuff.
Yeah.
It's a high heel without the heel for women. But it's really, so how does Nike combat that? I mean, they have a very broad line, so I think it's not going to be an easy. I agree with Mr. Sole, Sole. It's not going to be an easy fix.
Well, you talked about losing touch. You want to hear
Mhm.
something from that article that there's no one I know of that can comprehend this. In one day, Phil Knight, okay, Phil Knight, by the way, is 87 now, I think,
Oh my God,
and his son help him run the company.
the founder,
Yeah, the founder.
right?
So I would say his son's probably in his 60s, if I had to
Hmm.
guess. So he's not a young chicken either. Um, his net worth, just guess how much it fell in one day because the shares fell 40%. Take a wild guess.
You are asking the non-math person a
I don't
math
care. Take a
question.
guess.
Billions, plural.
Yes, $5.5 billion. Can you imagine walking down the street and have $5.5 billion drop out of your pocket and go, oh man, I lost my money? I mean, to me, you talk about losing touch. I'm sure all his NIL spend on the Oregon Ducks players is taking a huge hit
Oh my gosh, yeah.
because
Oh my God.
most of your college football fans believe that he's kind of supporting the whole nil effort out there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
I forgot
oh
that.
my
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
what a disconnect if 5.5 billion is just lost in one day, and I can't even comprehend having $1 million, let alone having 1 billion or 5.5 billion in one day gone.
That's where some of this is all kind of smoke and mirrors, right?
Yeah.
It's
So,
all smoke unless you
on
have it
paper.
in your hand.
Yeah.
That's why my grandfather, the old Italian, had a safe, and he had all his money in the safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't trust the banks, he said.
Right. Well,
So
he won't lose 5.5 billion that
no,
way. So that's good.
no, that's a pretty frightening. And it's a long way from Blue Ribbon Shoe Company
Yeah.
to Nike to losing 5.5 billion.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it just shows it's hard to stay on top. I sit there and think of Etsy, and I hadn't heard of a competitor until, talking to the gal that has that rug business on Etsy. And she immediately said, I love GoImagine so much better because of the fact that it doesn't charge the high fees
Yep.
and it requires people on there to actually make their own products.
Yeah, and then
So,
all they need to do is make the market more aware of that because
yeah.
that's how you go against Etsy and steal share from
Well,
them.
I know a good ad agency they could hire.
Yeah,
Do you think maybe they would go with us?
I'd
We gave
work
them a
on that.
lot of shout out today. For not having heard of them before. Now they're getting a mention. We should get a sponsorship from GoImagine.com.
Well, that would be a good outlet for our past associate who created the company Unbox the Dress.
Oh yeah, yep,
Grace Rojek, where she
yep,
makes all sorts of things out of people's wedding
yeah,
dresses.
yeah.
Go imagine.
We've spurred quite a few creators. I mean, you look at James Alay and his crack corn poppy. What's it called
It's
now?
called Puffy Pop now.
Puffy Pop. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we bought four of
Buy
those.
crack corn.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
bought four of those at a local market here just this past weekend, and three of them are almost gone. So they're
Yeah,
sitting
I
on my
had
waist,
friends.
though. I know exactly where they are.
I had friends. I had James get that into a little boutique in Michigan, and so
Uh-huh.
friends, when we went there, I said, "Try this at We Be Jammin'," and we were doing stuff. And when I opened the car, they had already eaten one, and they said, "We hate you. This is too good."
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, Lorraine, we tackled some big brands today, one seemingly doing the right thing, and one suffering from perhaps a relevance or product innovation crisis. Any final thoughts before we bring this episode to a close?
Yeah, the biggest fallacy in marketing is that you're too big to fail.
Mm,
If you're too big,
mhm.
failure is right around the corner.
Yeah.
So watch out how big you get.
Excellent analysis, O matron of merchandising.
Good.
And that doesn't mean you're old.
Okay, I have to get the hand.
Yeah. Thanks for giving us your insights, and I hope you have a great week.
All
It's
right.
just hard to believe we're in the last full month of summer. It makes me sad, but
Yeah.
thank you for all of those who have joined today. And for the new listeners, we just seem to be climbing every week. If you haven't liked, shared, subscribed, or told your friends about the Brand Shorthand podcast, please do. And until next time, have an amazing day.
Business but my own.